Oh, no. You're terrified. You're a hypocrite.
I'm really baffled.
Come on. You're terrified
of
of the subject. I'm not.
No, I'm not.
In the UK, you can be jailed for making jokes about Islam or even bring up the grooming gangs. I'll bet you $1,000 you will not go to the UK and make a joke about any of that stuff, because you will not go to a foreign country and, in violation of their laws, speak out against what they've said not to speak out against. Do it. I dare you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. The culture war with Tim Pool was a wild 3 hours yesterday where he cooked again Adam Conover, the woke comedian. I tried to compress it down to the best parts for y'all. And as usual, the timestamps are in the description. Let's get it started with the Maryland man hoax. Let's go.
$10,000. Cash in your pocket if you go to the UK and make a joke about Muhammad having a 12-year-old wife.
This we got here faster than I thought we would in this conversation. It looks like a pretty clear fascist authoritarian takeover of the U.S. government. You know, we got people being thrown into unmarked vans. We got like the destruction of the civil service, which is like a pretty standard authoritarian tactic, like early on in a administration of that type. Yeah, it's like sort of remains to be seen how far they'll get, and if they'll actually be able to transform in America in the ways that they're trying to. But yeah, it's pretty. My side of America, people are a little on edge. It's a little frightening to folks.
Yeah, my take on that would be largely because corporate press is lying to them, largely. And
what corporate press? There's no corporate press left, hardly.
Well, I would say their viewership is rapidly diminished.
Yeah.
But still, when you look at, there was a Real Clear Politics aggregate polling found that they didn't do it necessarily by demographic. They did it by decade age bracket. So it was like 20 to 29 or whatever. Every age group except for 70 plus was pro-Trump. Was a few points above.
Real Clear Politics did an average, and they said that every age group in America,
for 70 plus,
every age group except for 70 plus is pro-Trump.
Yeah, let me see if I can try and find it.
And this is contrasting to like all the approval rating stats I've seen have him at like 47% and dropping or something like that.
It's largely based on the older crowd.
Just old. That seems like the opposite of every stat I've seen in the past. But I don't like follow those really closely.
Yeah, I don't know how to find this image because it was a few weeks ago. But let me see if I can try and pull it up and talk at the same time, which I probably can't. But I don't actually. Do you want to see if you can try and find it while we talk? Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting here typing.
No problem.
Out of my mind. Yeah. So what I would say is like the obvious story, we debated this last week live, is the Abrego Garcia story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the take that I've typically seen from liberals is, actually, I'll use a specific example. The David Pakman subreddit. Pakman, of course, has millions of followers. He gets 100 million views per month. And his audience on Reddit was saying, this is just a family man who is trying to escape harsh conditions in Central America, who has been effectively disappeared by the Trump administration, which is a gross mischaracterization of what happened. If we were to say that a judge granted Abrego Garcia withholding of deportation due to Barrios 18 in Guatemala and threats against his life in El Salvador, then the question of due process is he needed to get a hearing as pertaining to that withholding of deportation, but he did already have two hearings in which he was determined to be an MS-13 gang member. He was pulled over and law enforcement believed him to be human trafficking. He has 2 filings from his wife for beating her. She was filing orders of protection. And so it's fine if, in my view, the liberal side of things, or the, podcasters like Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen and others are going to say, hey, he was supposed to get a hearing. Agreed. But it is a gross mischaracterization. So when you mention that, people on the left are on edge, I'm like, yeah, well, they think that a guy who lives in Maryland who was working like a regular union job or whatever just disappeared one day, as opposed to a guy who had gone through several hearings, was arrested with MS-13, had symbols on his hand that law enforcement believe were MS-13 gang tattoos. And so the real question is, what was the error in that deportation? On the right, it's legally called harmless error, in that he didn't get a hearing as to the withholding of deportation. However, he wouldn't have got it approved anyway. So the answer now is a formality. It's paperwork. It's a Zoom call, and then it's done. But people on the left, the liberal side of things, they think that this is a working class family guy who's vanished one night, an American citizen. And I think it was actually Hassan.
Well, people don't think he's an American citizen. I mean, they're up to speed on like
Hassan Piker thought he was from Maryland. Legit.
Oh,
and so
okay.
and we're talking, and I know it's not you, but this is like the 7th biggest live streamer in the country. Almost every single day, Hassan gets 50K. And he actually said on his stream in response to the comments I made at the White House, what do you mean he's not from Maryland? Are you saying he's from D.C.? He's from Maryland. No, he's from El Salvador. He only lived in Maryland for a few years.
Okay, I mean that guy talks for 8 hours a day. Like you can parse any particular
For sure
statement, but like I mean that to me everything that you said. First of all, half of it sounds unrelated. Like he's had past interaction with law enforcement, like domestic violence and stuff like that. To me, that's like neither here nor there. It's like character stuff. I don't really give a shit about like the character of the guy, and I didn't think that was a big part of the story. It was like the fact that he did not, receive due process before being, rendered to a prison, like this bizarre prison in El Salvador. Like that's the strange part.
That's
right?
El Salvador's government with an El Salvadoran citizen. That's not our purview.
I mean, he's like sent directly to this like gigantic, complex. It's in a like highly public way, in a way where like the administration is making a show of their refusal to, follow the law. It's bizarre to witness. And like, this sort of narrow legalistic, oh, he had a hearing, he was da 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 da. It's irrelevant to like the purposeful spectacle of the Trump administration, sending this guy who they admit they should not have done this, but they're like, we don't give a shit. We're doing it just because we hate guys like this, and we want like even people who are in the country legally to, be afraid and to self-deport.
Yeah.
Like it seems like the only justification is purposeful cruelty for doing
I don't think they call on any legal immigrants to self-deport. They're calling on illegal immigrants to self-deport, offering up $1,000 if they do.
The guy had a legal status to be in the country.
He did not.
Legally.
It's not true. Withholding of deportation isn't legal status. Withholding of deportation means he was ordered to leave the country, but the U.S. was barred from sending him to El Salvador, specifically because Barrios 18 in Guatemala had threatened his family. So the question as to due process was, this is why I think the actual legal standard is called harmless error. If he actually got either USCIS interview as to the withholding of deportation, it would have been voided because El Salvador no longer has the crime rate that it did 12 years ago or 10 years ago. The issue is, are you still at threat from Barrios 18? The answer is no. And so then your withholding of deportation is void. We can deport you. The issue is that for deportation of someone like Rego Garcia, he has a home country, El Salvador. He has a withholding to that, to El Salvador, a withholding of deportation because of a gang in another country neighboring El Salvador. We can't deport him to Venezuela. We can't deport him to Mexico. That requires treaties. The U.S. doesn't have those, though we do have a treaty with El Salvador as it pertains to Tren de Aragua. So what ends up happening is he had 2 orders of deportation. He conceded in 2019 through his lawyer that yes, he was here illegally. Yes, he had been found to be here to be removable under the law, and he requested 3. There's withholding of deportation. There was asylum, and then there was I forgot the third one is it's you can't deport him because of a fear of torture. It's like a UN thing, and they denied 2 of them. Asylum was denied because he didn't apply for it in a timely manner. Deportation to El Salvador was granted because of Barrios 18 in Guatemala, and then the last one was denied because there's no torture provision. The remedy right now would be a Zoom hearing where he gets on a computer, talks to these are executive judges, by the way, and they would just say, withholding denied. Welcome to El Salvador. You're an El Salvador citizen.
There's no doubt that the Maryland man hoax, the reason they were saying a Maryland father, a Maryland man, they were trying on the leftist media and the mainstream media to scare Americans. The over 60 crowd were believing it, and they thought that they were, even Joe Rogan, I made a video, Joe Rogan was believing that this was an actual American citizen. not somebody who's been in the country illegally for 14 years, which is what he actually was. They were trying to scare Americans, saying that, hey, if you're a brown or black American, you could be deported to an El Salvador prison as well. And Trump would never, ever deport, and no one would ever support him deporting actual American citizens, no matter how bad they were. Like Tim Pool mentions here, a 10-minute Zoom call would do it. That would be his due process. Now, there was a mistake done, and they've all admitted that there was an error in sending him abroad to El Salvador. But hell, he's from there. But really, if they really wanted to, they could just send a UCIS guy down there, interview him, and that could be his little hearing, and then they can come back. He can come back to America, not Abrego Garcia, but the USCIS guy, and it's all done. The reason they're not doing that, and Tim talks about it on this show, he talks about a few reasons, but the reason I think they're not doing it is, one, Trump wouldn't want to look weak. He doesn't want to look like he's been pushed around by the judiciary. Actually, universal injunctions are unconstitutional. But I think Trump is concerned that he's going to set a precedent by doing this. By Trump adhering to the universal injunctions pertaining to the Alien Enemies Act or the mass deportations, and he's not going to allow that to happen. He's not going to allow that precedent to be set. He doesn't want to set a precedent so that in the future, they don't have any of these universal injunctions to go back on in the Constitution. We've seen, about 40% of all injunctions ever in this way against Trump and his administration. I believe he's got more universal injunctions forced on him in the first few months of his presidency than any individual ever, totally unconstitutional. So for Trump's point, he's saying that what these judges are doing violates their constitutional authority, and he's not playing that game. He's not going to adhere to something they can't do. And on top of that, the guy was from Venezuela. He's been caught in front of the Home Depot with Coke cans full of marijuana. The guy beat his wife, clearly a member of MS-13, had the tattoos, gang affiliation clothing. The father of the kids that his girlfriend had, he went to the cops saying that he feared for his kids because this guy was in a gang in El Salvador. On top of that, he's not an American citizen. So yeah, get the F out. It's funny that they never talk about the Hillary Clinton and Obama due processes when they deported everybody, but that's beside the point. Now let's get to the next part of the video where they talk about Marco Rubio revoking student visas for these protesters and pro-Hamas students. Let's go.
Marco Rubio specifically revoking student visas, saying that these individuals represent a threat to our national security by adhering to our enemies. And literally, that's what they're claiming. I think it's ridiculous to claim that a student who's anti-Israel is working with Hamas. That's silly. But that's the argument he's making, and under the INA, he has the authority to do it. So you say, okay, well, when people come in here on student visas, they do sign agreements saying they won't do certain things. They do it, they get kicked out.
So this is okay with you because it's narrowly legal under Marco Rubio's purview?
I would say what's fine with me is the revocation of a visa for someone who's not a citizen who's here conditionally. Like Mohammed Khalil, who was on a conditional temporary visa. So if it gets revoked, I just say like, well, that's a conditional visa. I don't go to Singapore and spit on the ground. I'll get caned.
So sorry. You think what's happened to those students is like that's okay with you? Not legally. I'm talking about like as an event that occurred in the country. You're like, oh, it's good that happened. It's okay with me. You think it's moral. You think it's right. You think it's just. I'm not talking about legally. I'm talking about like you say you 60%? Don't 60%.
Yeah, like nothing's so easily black and white.
Rubesa Ozturk, who she wrote an op-ed. The only thing that anybody has even claimed that she's done is she wrote an extremely mild op-ed in her campus newspaper, asking that the college like sort of consider being supportive of the Palestinian cause in some vaguely defined way. Yeah. Her visa's revoked. We've all seen the video, right? People come and like grab her and literally put her into a vehicle.
She was arrested.
They're wearing masks, right? She's stopped in an alarming way on the street, right?
It's not like they filmed that and published that footage though. That was security camera footage.
Yeah, but they did it in if you want a student, like a young woman, there's other ways to arrest them than have 6 people show up wearing masks, surround her in a pincer formation. Like it's designed to create terror. So like what's
do it that way. Agreed.
Okay, great.
They didn't have, and Biden's DOJ didn't need to show up at Roger Stone's house at 4 in the
Sure,
morning.
And you know what? If you want to bring up another example, I'll say I condemn that as well.
Agreed.
If that'll keep us
we're
on
in
this topic
agreement.
for a second. So you think that America should be a country where if you come here on a student visa, you're paying into our, university system. You're coming here for the reasons that, completely legally, we've invited you to come, right? Yes. This is why America is the country it is, partially because people like this have come for decades. If you express a political opinion that is like mildly at odds with a U.S. interest in another country of a canal, that you should be deported. You think America should be the kind of country where if somebody comes here, they write an op-ed that says literally anything about U.S. foreign policy, they should be deported. So going forward, literally everyone in the world should know if you are on foot on U.S. soil, you should not say anything in public about U.S. national priorities of any kind, or else you could be deported. Do you think it's good to have a country where that's the understanding?
All right. So you're saying that
this is what I'm trying to drill down to.
The individuals who come to this country and apply for student visas have made that agreement already. So while I would argue the deportation of Romesa is the thinnest of hairs, Mahmoud Khalil makes more sense. I mean, he organized and helped lead protests that resulted in damage, occupations of buildings, several staff at the Columbia.
Let's stay on Romesa because then we don't have to split hairs.
Right. The issue is do not come to our country and tell us what to do. That's it. If you're here as a guest of this nation, you do not start rallying its people in opposition to the will of the voters and what the government is doing.
I mean, I really thought the point of America was, freedom of speech was like a main value here. That I think that's why people come here. It's why I like living here, because I always felt that, hey, I can express an opinion, especially about U.S. foreign policy, and not have anything happen to me. So that's a right that only citizens have. And you think America should be a country where if you are not literally an American citizen, if you express any opinion about U.S. foreign policy, I mean, and we both agree the opinion she expressed was pretty mild. It wasn't like a very inflammatory opinion, right? It was like, it's pretty mainstream political opinion to have. It conflicts with U.S. interests about the Suez Canal. I still don't really understand that point, but let's just say that it does.
It does.
That should be grounds for being forcibly removed from the country. And like, whether or not it's legally the case that we could do that.
We've had numerous instances across administrations that have acted similarly.
Okay, so let's stay on Rumeysa Öztürk.
Students coming here and telling us to oppose our support with Israel puts us at risk in terms of the sentiment of a younger generation as to whether or not we'll fund Israel and control the Suez Canal.
But I asked you if you thought it was good to deport her.
I said marginally. Right,
because we have national interests in the Suez Canal, and she wrote an op-ed.
That's the U.S.'s interest.
Okay, so why do you think it was good to deport her?
Asserting U.S. sovereignty. Do not come to our country and tell us what to do. You've got a condition of your visa. You're a guest in this country.
I agree with Tim here that what she did wasn't egregious, and let's face it, if it wasn't about Israel, she probably would not be deported, but I'm okay with it. When you come into a country, you are a guest. Tim said, you agreed to this when you signed these papers to be a student on a student visa in America, same that you do when you're on a work visa. A lot of these people come into our countries. You see it in Europe and Canada and in America. They come into our country. A lot of the Muslim people, they undermine everything that we do. They don't care for our way of life, for our ethics, our morals. Why should we have these people in our country when all they do is undermine what America wants to do? You are not a citizen, and it's in the Immigration and Naturalization Act. There's multiple provisions for this. For this girl, was she a member of Hamas? No, I don't think so. But you need to set an example with someone if you don't want people to do this. And granted, the same way if you go to any country, if you went to a Muslim country, you wouldn't be allowed to preach Christianity and say something against the country in a Muslim country. One, they probably would kill you. But yet we allow people that come here that are Muslim, which is their whole goal is to spread Islam in America. So if you're not an American, why are we allowing this? You can't go to Asia and do this shit. You can't go to Muslim countries and pull that stuff off. You are a guest in a country, and you should adhere by the laws of said country, which you'll see in the next segment when they talk about the UK, that Adam is a hypocrite. If you violate the conditions of your visa, we are allowed to deport you. The people that give you this visa are allowed to take that away at any time. Again, you are a guest in the country. And yes, in America, we have free speech. But said person is not American. So if you come in and you start undermining and writing op-eds against our foreign policies and against our government, why wouldn't they deport you? What are you bringing to the country as a positive when you do that? Again, I mentioned, when you come into a country as a guest and you spend your time undermining everything that that country does, why should they allow you to stay? And that goes for any country. Now let's get to the part where it's really, really juicy when Tim Pool loses it on hypocrite Adam Kono.
But I just did shows in the UK and Amsterdam, and I made fun of UK politics, made fun of American politics.
You wouldn't dare make fun of Islam, though. Go to the UK and mock Islam. Do it.
Well, I don't have any jokes about Islam.
Well, why not? They got Pakistani grooming gangs raping little girls. Why won't you go to the UK?
What?
Why won't you go to the UK and make jokes about Islam?
I don't think it's very funny. I don't have any jokes about it. I'm so confused. Dude.
Okay, let me help unconfuse you. Are there jokes that can be made about Islam? Yes or no?
Wait, I don't want to. I don't want to go to this particular rabbit hole.
Oh, no. You're terrified. You're a hypocrite.
What?
Are there jokes you can make about Islam? Muhammad banged a little girl, right?
I'm really baffled.
Come on. You're terrified of this subject. I'm not.
No, I'm not.
In the UK, you can be jailed for making jokes about Islam or even bring up the grooming gangs. There are people who go online and pointed out that a stabbing was carried out by a Muslim, and they got arrested for it. I'll bet you $1,000 you will not go to the UK and make a joke about any of that stuff, because you will not go to a foreign country and, in violation of their laws, speak out against what they've said not to speak out against. Do it. I dare you. $10,000. Cash in your pocket if you go to the UK and make a joke about Muhammad having a 12-year-old wife.
This we got here faster than I thought we would in this conversation. Where you're shouting at me about something I don't understand. I don't really understand how you would think it's incumbent upon me.
Do you think anybody watching this right now thinks you are confused by the notion that in the UK you go to jail for mocking Islam?
I don't understand how we got onto you shouting at me about Islam specifically. I'd like to return to
okay. It's because you said people should be allowed to come to this country and speak out against it, and you said you're a comedian, and you go to other countries, right? And you said you go to the UK, and I said, okay, if you go to the UK, speak out in violation of their laws and see what happens. And you said, I'm confused. I don't understand. What don't you understand? Will you go to Turkey? Will you go to Turkey and speak out against Islam?
I mean, if I have a joke to make, sure. I don't have a joke about those particular topics.
You would.
I would.
You're saying if you had a joke about.
Oh yeah. Sure. I would try to do the best I can. I always try to poke the bear as much as I can. It's part of the job of a comedian.
Nothing to poke the bear about as it pertains to one of the world's largest religions. I mean, come on.
I mean, I haven't written a joke about that recently.
All right. Then
so look, hey man, I'm a free speech guy, right? I think that something that's nice about America is that we're a country that has that value, and that we don't generally think that you should be tossed into a van and kicked out of the country for expressing an opinion. I think that it is a change. I think it's a change in America to most people around the world to feel that, oh, wait, if I go to America and I express a mild opinion about their foreign policy in my own student paper, or maybe on a stage or maybe somewhere else, I could be, without any warning to me, accosted by 6 people on the street, thrown into a van, and taken out of the country.
Oh, come on,
right?
accosted.
Oh, let me finish.
Don't load the
I think that's a strain. I think that's a new idea for a lot of people, that America is that type of country. I think that Donald Trump's purpose is to turn America into that type of country. I think that that's bad. I think it makes the country smaller. I think it makes the country worse. I think it's a violation of most of the values that I grew up with as an American. And that's my view of what's happening in the country. Now, if you want to say, hey, I don't like free speech for foreign nationals who are in the country who express mild opinions about other countries' foreign wars, then that's your prerogative. It's a big difference between us that you don't like free speech in that way.
I mean, that's loaded language, right?
Yeah, all the language you're using is pretty loaded.
Well, you keep using adjectives to describe things to diminish one thing while exacerbate or exaggerate something else.
I do use the English language to express my thoughts and opinions. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's straw manning. It's not a legitimate attack of the ideas, right? So accosted on the street. Come on. She was arrested. Okay. She was arrested by a relatively large group of men compared to what a normal arrest would require, which I think they didn't need to do and was silly. So we can say she was arrested by several men, unmarked or plain clothes, which didn't need to happen. But I don't need to say like she was accosted by men on the street and like it was about a mild opinion. It's like, okay, listen, the facts of the case, like I said, I don't like the idea that people come to this country and then try and tell us how to do, how to live our lives.
You're not for free speech. I understand.
I think American citizens have self-determination and sovereignty. And I will say this even of the Canadians who keep coming here and they keep getting involved in our politics. I'm friends with some of them, but I think it's fair to say that there is an issue with Canadians, largely conservatives, who come to this country and then start advocating for conservative values in a country they're not from. So, to be fair, there are liberals Canadians who do it too. I find it to be silly. That being said, Canada as a bordering nation with a largely overlapping culture is a morally different question, but still applies in much the same way principally. So I do take issue with foreigners coming to my country.
It's a nice white country, so we like it.
Canada's they call it what, the most multicultural country in the world, I think. Mm-hmm. They big on immigration. I think Toronto is considered to be the most multicultural city in the world.
Yeah.
So Canada actually is. You can call it a nice white country. That's technically the truth, but it also is very, very much in favor of immigration and diversity and all these things, largely what many of the conservatives who come here are speaking out against. But without you know,
this is a country where if you're from another country and you're in America, don't say anything about our politics, or you could be forcibly removed from the country. You're comfortable with America being that kind of country.
Marginally.
That's something that's like that's a value of yours. Those are your values.
See, you're doing it again.
No, I'm trying to understand what you actually believe.
Yeah, I would say marginally it's a good,
because I think that's a point of distinction. It's like it's useful in a conversation like this to be like, okay, I have my value, you have your value, and my value is like I really like it when people say what the fuck they think about any country's politics.
We can simplify it. My value would just be, to whatever mathematical degree, American sovereignty supersedes the right of foreigners to speak about our policies. You would never go to the UK and do those things.
If I were now, look, I don't know of the policies of which you speak, okay? But if I were to be in England and I were to make a joke on their stage and I were to be put into a van and removed from a country, I would say this is a bad thing about England, and I think that the country sucks, and I think that they should change it, and I don't think people should go there anymore, and that sucks for them and it sucks for us.
You wouldn't make a joke about Islam in the United States. You wouldn't.
Okay, sure. What's that meant to prove?
You don't actually believe in free speech. You fear the consequences.
Because I don't make a joke about the topic that you demand me to?
Because this topic in
I don't believe in free
has
speech.
resulted in people like at Charlie Hebdo getting murdered.
Yeah, that's bad. It's bad that they were murdered.
South Park tried just showing Muhammad, and Comedy Central wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah, that's bad.
So let's see you stand up for that value and come out and make a joke about Islam.
I've stood up about free speech plenty of times. What are you talking about?
Take it to the next level, brother.
Okay.
How about we do this? You believe in free speech.
Dude, this is what you do when you've lost an argument, is that you just you just
not even
jump to this. You just jump to this. What? What'd you say?
You brought it up.
What did I? The Islam piece of it. No.
And now I'm continuing the conversation, and you're derailing into you must have lost the argument.
No, because
let's stand up for South Park, for Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Yeah, I stand up for them.
So go on stage and show a big picture of Muhammad.
I'm sorry. What the thing that you're doing?
Stand up for free speech, brother. Do it.
So
I'll do it with you.
So you're demanding me to go on stage and
prove
do something
care about
specific,
free speech.
And unless I do, I'm a coward.
I'm saying
this is a bizarre rhetorical move. This is a bizarre rhetorical move.
I didn't call you a coward. I said, prove you care about free speech.
Yeah,
do something that creates real risk to your person for free speech.
Yeah, I speak about shit all the time, dude. I'm happy to live in America where the things I say don't create real risk to my person. In fact, if I were to say the things that you're saying, I would not be creating real risk to my person.
You don't think so?
I do not think so.
Then why not just do it? Prove me wrong.
Because I don't have anything in particular to say about those topics.
Just put a picture of Muhammad up and say, praise be. Prove I'm wrong.
I'm really glad we got here again because it's just very fun to sit in how weird this part of the conversation is.
Remember Charlie Hebdo?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, a bunch of people were shot because they
Put a picture of Muhammad.
Yeah, that's bad.
You think if you did that, they might want to shoot you too?
Yeah, maybe.
So you shouldn't do it.
I mean, I don't have it. Well, you know, the particular images that they showed, I didn't think were like very funny. Like it was their right to do it.
Wouldn't let South Park do it either.
They
censored the whole thing.
Yeah,
and
that's
bleeped out
bad. Yeah, that's bad, and I think that's contrary to American values.
Why won't the free speech people who believe we should live in this country stand up against that?
I'm sorry. I'm not standing up for free speech unless I do what exactly?
I didn't say the only way for you to stand up for free speech is to do something. I said, why won't people who are claiming...
You called me a hypocrite, and I don't understand what's hypocritical about me only doing jokes about the topics that I'm interested in.
That you would not go to the UK and speak in violation of their speech laws.
I mean, I went there. I made fun of their government. I talked about, the fire at Heathrow because that impacted my travel when I was there. I talked about, yeah.
So you can make fun of white people, but you can't make fun of non-white people. You go to jail for that.
Okay, yeah, I think that would, if it's as you say, that sounds like if it applied to me as a comedian,
I would not.
I think it would say that's a bad law.
I would not go to Turkey and speak out against Islam, and I would not go to the UK and violate their speech laws.
Oh, okay. So are you a coward? What's your point?
No, I actually agree with the sovereignty of nations, and if they have laws, I'm not going to violate them.
You can say whatever you want against Christians, right? You're allowed to make fun of white people, Christianity, Catholics, but God forbid you would say anything about the protected religion that is Islam. We do have the First Amendment. You have freedom of speech, but in the UK, they will not allow you to have that. You have to abide by their speech laws. And they have many. Even on Facebook right now, people are going to jail because they've said something that is considered hateful against Muslims. And keep in mind now, the government in the UK is largely run by Muslims. They have enough Muslims there now to keep getting the vote, kind of like Democrats were trying to do in America. Make it a one-party state. Bring in as many illegals as you can so that they vote for you. They mentioned the Charlie Hebdo thing that happened in France. Islam in Europe and everywhere in the world is associated with violence, right? Not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim. Okay, it wasn't Buddhists and Christians who flew planes into the Twin Towers or who blew up the London Underground and who are blowing up cars and buses all across Europe. But God forbid you say anything against them. Even the government in Europe, the UK government, was protecting these grooming gangs for years because they didn't want to say anything that would make them sound racist. Adam Conover is a damn hypocrite, like most people on the left these days. Or I shouldn't say that. I should say the far progressives on the left. Let's get to the last part where they discuss a little bit of DEI.
So Charlie Kirk got a lot of flack for this because he said, I go on a plane, I see a black pilot, and I think, am I supposed to be worried?
Yeah, well, that's racist.
But the point he was making was he was calling you racist, dude, and you guys didn't get that. He said, you have created a situation where average people think you are hiring people who can't do the job based on race, and we don't want to live that way.
I mean, he's the one getting on the plane and seeing a black person and saying that person's not qualified. I don't get it.
That's not what he's saying. He says Democrats are intentionally hiring underqualified people based on race. Why are they putting us in a situation like this?
He's saying that if a black person is in the seat, it means they're unqualified. That's his assertion.
No, he's saying he doesn't know because he knows you are advocating for it.
I'm just listening to the words that he's saying. It seems pretty straightforward.
I would say that when the left and the right only listen to the surface level clips and arguments, they don't actually understand what the person is conveying. And so the argument then is Charlie Kirk is a racist, which is not true. Charlie Kirk's point on that plane was, let's just map it out 1, 2, 3. Democrats have created policies by which they will put people in positions of authority who don't have the same caliber degree or have passed certain tests because of race. We've seen policies where they will actually go down the list of top candidates until they get to a race. This creates a concern among people that that individuals are being hired without the capability based on race. That's the idea he's trying to convey. Not that he doesn't want to fly with the black
You
pilot
think that
or
when
woman.
you think that in the time when we only had white pilots or white executives or white whatever, all those people were hired on merit. None of them floated through for some other reason, like
Nepotism.
yeah, exactly.
Kickbacks.
Like there's
I bet some people gave BJs.
Yeah, exactly. The systems are like they already
agree.
do that for everybody. So
But it
like
wasn't based on
so,
race.
so for him to go in and say, oh, when I see a black person, that's when I think that, not
Because
when
your
I
policy
see a
is
white
race-based.
person,
Your policy is
then
race-based.
that's racist on his part because he's only focusing on when the black people
But it's
are
because the
there.
policy is race-based. The policy is race and gender-based. And so the issue is not Charlie Kirk saying he doesn't like black people. He's saying Democrats are hiring people who are less qualified based on race. This is creating a concern for people, which we don't want to experience.
So the counter argument would be if you have a system that has no black people in it, right? You have a pool of people doing the job that has no black people in it. That clearly is not based on merit because, black people are X percent of the population, and surely some would have gotten through if it was really based on nothing but merit. So some of the existing white people must actually not have gotten there via merit. It must be because of a race-based system. So instead, let's adjust the system so that we give everybody an equal opportunity. That is going to mean that there are going to be more black people in the system. Now that happens, he now gets on the plane, he sees a black person, and he says, oh, now it seems they seem unqualified to me. It's pretty straightforwardly racist.
I actually think that it was racist systems that kept out qualified candidates. What I would say to your argument is the only distinction between what you said and white nationalists is that you want a system to bring those people in, and white nationalists don't. So you both the left and the right agree that there is some kind of phenomenon where black people should be qualified and aren't qualifying. I disagree with that. I think that there were institutions throughout history that hampered the process by which minorities were able to go to schools to effectively get those degrees. It's very difficult. The liberal argument floats dangerously close, I think, to what white nationalists are hoping for. It's not to say that you're wrong or anything, but it's a similar argument. That is the implication. The solution would be colorblind hiring processes and educational benefits that target class and not race, because then you remove the racial component from the argument completely instead of creating a racial argument for the white nationalists.
But if you admit that people in America are racist, you can't, if you want to, you can't build systems that are completely blind to race, or you have race continue. You have individual racists continuing to
that'll never
exert their
change.
power over the system.
So what you do is
you accept racism. You're just like, okay, yeah, racism will continue to affect every part of the system,
and we can mitigate it, right? So, for instance, for hiring practices, when it comes to the hiring managers, they should have no access to the name or the race of the individual. It should literally be, here's the resume, here's their qualifications. Is it a yes or a no?
Yeah, what Charlie Kirk was mentioning and what Tim Pool is trying to tell Adam is that DEI pretty much does no favors for these minorities. One, if you do get accepted because you are a minority, you might be in a position, say it's a university, you might be put in a position to fail. You might not be qualified enough to be there, and therefore you probably shouldn't be there because it's just going to hurt you in the long run. Also, if you're a black person that deserves to be there or a minority that deserves to be there, people are going to look at you like a DEI hire. You're trying to tell me that in 2025, you don't have all the same opportunities as everybody else if you're a black person. You can't say the system is systemically racist when we had a black president for 8 years. That's ludicrous. You should never be accepted based on race. Now, based on gender, we can make a case for that. I don't want to go into a kindergarten and see a male teacher. I much prefer having a woman there. I think there's a lot of cases for law enforcement, for firemen, that men should be there. But that's a biological issue. That has nothing to do with intelligence. It's just a biological thing. Men and women are not the same. We have different characteristics that define us. Now, I don't think it's right what Tim says at the end, that we shouldn't see the people we're hiring. We shouldn't know their name. We should just look at their resume. I think that should be a great first step into the hiring process. But depending on the job you're hiring somebody for, you're going to want to have to talk to them. Like if you're moving somebody up within the same company, sure, but if you're hiring a new person, you want to have a dialogue with them. You want to know that their vibe is going to match what your company's about, how they're getting along with everybody. That's a big important part. They're going to be spending 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day there. How they're going to interact with clients, what their physical appearances. And I don't mean skin color. I just mean, are you presentable? Do you have a big tattoo across your forehead? I don't care if you're white, black, or Asian, but I'm not going to hire you if you have a big skull neck tattoo on your neck. So it's important to see the person in some cases before you give them a job. But yes, everything as much as possible should be merit-based. You should never get a job because of your race or gender. Again, there's going to be some exceptions when it comes to gender, but not for race. We know, based on all the empirical data, that a black kid and a white kid from the same social economic class, from the same neighborhood, if the black kid has 2 parents at home who put a large focus on his education and the white kid is in a single mother household, that the black kid is statistically more likely to succeed, to go to university, to not get arrested if it's a girl, to not have a pregnancy when she's a teen, to not end up incarcerated, to not spend years in jail. There's lots of stuff that comes with having 2 parents at home, which is what we should be focused on in this country, and not stupid stuff like DEI. Hope you enjoyed this video. Tim Pool killed it. Catch you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.